Welcome to the Geeks Assembled podcast. Be afraid.
Hello, we are Geeks Assembled, and we've gathered here once again today, and tonight we are talking Doctor Who, as it's Classic Who night, and tonight it's going to be William Hartnell and the Sensorites. So we are going to kick off. Let's go straight with Beef Dad, since he's come appropriately dressed as a character you might remember. And he's muted.
This, at the time it was broadcast, was one of my favourites. It's an excellent story. The Sensorites are just a wonderful, wonderful concept. And I just absolutely loved it. And of course, it's got all the original companions. It's just brilliant. I mean, I remember that William Russell said to me last weekend that he liked the Sensorites. He thought they were brilliant, but they really gave what's her name? His other the other teacher. They really gave her the creeps. And of course, it's wonderful because it also shows that apart from being the granddaughter of the Time Lord, Susan has also got telepathic capabilities, which was wonderful. It's just so clever. And yeah, the humans that are trying to poison the Sensorites by putting poison in the water. They were so unpleasant, but at the end the Sensorites forgive them and let them go. It's just, it really is very, very magical. I love, brilliant story, superbly told. And yeah, I know it's got 6 episodes, but then the episodes then were shorter than they are now. They're less than half of what they are now. They were about 25 minutes each, and each one ends on a little bit of a cliffhanger. In fact, one of them on a big cliffhanger where Susan is going off with the Sensorites, because if someone doesn't go down to where the Sensorites are, then they're liable to be killed. So Susan decides that she is going to go, and she does it. She just does it brilliantly. She really is just so good in this. That's my opening thoughts.
Thanks for that, Beef Dad. Let's go to Stephen Price on his thoughts.
Yes, I enjoyed this Sensorites. I haven't seen it in, it's going to be about 6 years. Can remember it. So obviously I watched it this week. Yeah, good story. I like the creepiness of the Sensorites. It did seem a bit long, but as Beef Dad said, it's shorter than today's Who. Question I want to ask you, Beef Dad, is did they show him in those 6 parts when it was out?
Oh yes.
Yeah.
I mean, that was 6 weeks, one each week.
All right. Yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed it. That's my opening thoughts.
And you watched the whole thing, did you? Because little birdie told me that you fell asleep halfway through.
Yeah, I fell asleep halfway through, not because of the episode. It's because I've been up early for work this morning.
That's a good way to get out of it. That's a good way to get around it.
No.
Let's go to Alex and Susan. See what they make of the Sensorites.
Well, thank you. I love this one. That's why I suggested it. The emphasis on Susan's abilities is pretty integral to the story, and so I like that. I like the fact that she describes Gallifrey in this, and that I love the bit where she I actually love the bit where they're trying to work out who of the Sensorites was doing the wicked stuff, and then how they didn't know that the other humans were down there, and so they had this long discovery process. Maybe that could have been shortened, and then but any amount of time with that first TARDIS team, and I am just fine watching it, over and over at its current length. And let's see, the the illness. I mean, it seems like Ian keeps getting knocked down in the first season or so, because in this one he also gets knocked down, just like he lost his legs, use of his legs in the Daleks, and so Ian's gone through some hardship to get there, and this one he does. And then there's I like what Beef Dad said about when Susan's going down to the Sensphere. And I love how they haven't brought him back, but they've alluded to him, because I think that telepathic aliens, they're going to kind of, they've gone that way with like the
Uda related to them.
And like all these other things have gotten in people's minds,
But Susan, the Uda related to them.
That's what I meant. That they alluded to them later on.
No, but they're related. Yeah, they're actually
right. But they didn't actually related. Show them and show how the Ood and they didn't show them, but they.
Oh no, they didn't show them, but they are related.
About them. Right, yeah. and then, but they also, they also have had other telepathic aliens. So, but good, excellent storytelling. I really enjoy this. And here's Alex.
Okay, well, it's an interesting idea, of course. And remember that this is the first season of any Doctor Who. The acting is good. The pacing and the dialogue definitely could have been shortened. And the aliens were a nice idea. But again, remember, it's, they were experimenting with this. They started getting into more science fiction. And, of course, they started blending in all types of, it's part science fiction, part adventure, part courtroom drama. And, of course, just like any good science fiction, you have to have a lot of theories and philosophy going on at the same time, as well as I don't recall Hartnell being very athletic. So Ian kind of took over a lot of that. But Hartnell had a little bit of the Miss Marple going for him, just like the second Doctor, that, you don't think he's figuring it out. You don't think he has a plan, but he actually does. He just arrives at it slower. And, of course, this was also the days of You can have anywhere from 1 to 18 parts, which they wouldn't do now because it's too long. But it is a good cast. They were in the beginning. Like I said, it was a new show, mostly new show. The Sensorites are an interesting idea. You probably should bring them back with a little bit better special effects and makeup. The only problem, like John Pertwee said, is that you can't really see the eyes and the mouth moving, so it sort of takes it a little bit out. But again, everything has to have a beginning, and it's not like now where everything has to be perfect and fast and 10,000 explosions and all that. So it is a little too long, but again, I'm glad that they had this is the beginning. And Hartnell was, that's the other question was, and besides him mispronouncing Chesterton's name all the time, and saying my boy all the time. But like I said, especially in the pilot, where they have two different versions of the pilot, one he's very nasty, and the other one he starts warming up, even though at the end he said he was going to throw Ian out. So, again, it's different. And then if you watch the rest of Doctor Who, whether it's the first Doctor or the second Doctor, you see how it changes. It changes from the characterization, and the stories get more polished and a little faster, notwithstanding the budget. But like I said, Hartnell did have some good episodes. I wasn't a big fan of Susan. But
wait, whoa. Let's just freeze a minute there. Let's just hold the phone there. Let's just hold it there. You're not a big fan of Susan?
Not the Susan on Doctor Who, no.
Oh my God, Susan.
But I did like Barbara, and I did like Chesterton in small doses. But again, remember, I also grew up with the fourth, and then the third Doctor as well. So they changed it a little bit. It was a little bit more James Bond.
You've absolutely broken Susan's heart there.
Even though
she's now having to reconsider. Yeah. Do you know what? To be honest, I think that trip to the honeymoon to go and see ABBA in the UK is off now.
Okay, well.
Isn't it, Susan, I think, after that?
Let me let someone else talk.
Surely not. So who should we go to, Alex? Is it going to be Lee or Lee? We can't go to Stephen again. Let's go to Lee.
Oh dear. What was the question?
Stephen's at the bottom.
Well, Sensorites. What can I say about this? Team, the design of the Sensorites, so I like the idea of the concept of the Sensorites. There was not much of a story, to be honest. For 6 episodes, there was not much of a story. I do like the telepathic element of it. I do like the Sensorites work like that. I agree they should be brought back, but maybe on audio. Big Finish could do them better, I think. But for me, the story is very, very dull. Nothing. There's only 2 sets, really. There's the spaceship and the Sensphere series. 6 episodes. There was not much change in every episode. But I'm always enthralled watching Hartnell and that team. I'm watching those. The stories can be appalling, but I still enjoy watching that team. You know what I mean? Hartnell keeps my attention. From that, yeah, it's an enjoyable story, but it's not one of the best in Who history, I would say, to be honest. And that's it for now.
Can I just say, on the design of them, okay, I can I'm fine with their face. I'm fine with the upper part of the body, but for me, it's the legs and the feet the feet just a full body shot of them just ruins the whole thing for me. I mean, they're just in onesies and they've got these big disc feet, and it does look bad when they're in football. Like the faces, like on here, I think he looks pretty good there. Looks pretty effective, doesn't he? You know, I don't think they're scary. There's nothing scary about them. But the full look of them, just it didn't work for me. I have to agree with Lee and Alex on this. If it wasn't for the main characters, this is a crap story. There's no getting around it. It's so boring. Nothing happens in the story, and it's just a load of. It feels repetitive. Like they're just dragging it out. They're dragging it out. That's just what it feels like. It's like, oh, you can't work out that he's the bad guy all along. It's like, come on, Doctor, you're the Doctor. It's like, you can work that out yourself. Today, you'd work that out in 2 seconds. Who the bad guy is in this? So yeah, and Lee's right. There is only like 2 sets apart from when they go into the cave area, the viaducts and all that. There is that set, and it does look good. I think the sets do look good, but it's just dull. It just doesn't really go anywhere. It's the main characters like Ian, Barbara, Susan, and the Doctor that pull it off. And then, some of the supporting cast, the guy's gone crazy. He's very good. But the story just doesn't do anything. And 6 parts is just way too long. So yeah, it's not the best Hartnell story, but Hartnell is as brilliant as ever. I mean, I love Hartnell as the Doctor. I see a lot of Jodie in Hartnell in a way. Well, the way that they're writing the series, like the Doctor isn't a hero in this. He's not a hero like, say, David Tennant. Hartnell's Doctor is not a hero, and nor is Jodie's Doctor. So I do like that element. But there was just a lot of talking, and the Sensorites do that thing where they explain their plan to camera, directly at the camera. I'm going to kill them now, yes. All that. They just explain everything. It's like everything is, sometimes it doesn't feel like they're talking to one another. It feels like they're just explaining stuff at you. It's like there's no proper interaction. It's not written very well, I don't think. Let's go to favourite moments. Let's go to Beef Dad favourite moments. Oh, Lee, what's the matter?
I was just going to pick you up on the Sensorites speaking to each other, camera and stuff like that. With no humans around in that area when they're speaking, why are they speaking using verbal?
Yeah, that's what I mean. That's partly what I mean by it's just there to explain it to us. Yeah, to us. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because they can
that's what it does.
Telepathically.
It comes across badly, as you put it.
Yeah, it comes across really badly. Yeah. Yeah. Let's go to Beef Dad favourite moments anyway.
For me, one of my favourite moments was when the Doctor was down in the aqueduct. He'd gone down on his own, was attacked, and then Barbara and Ian go down after him, and they find him, and his coat is all ripped to shreds at the back, but it hasn't ripped him to shreds, and we find out later why. Because it's the humans and they're using pointy sticks. This is where your original pointy stick idea comes from. What you've got to remember, and this is beginning to annoy, is there was no such thing as a onesie in 1964. So you can't sort of say it was just a onesie. It wasn't. They didn't have onesies then. There was no such thing.
This invented it. It was a onesie. This invented it.
The original concept. And yeah, when he finds the cure for the poison and sends it to Ian, it goes via the city administrator, who was turned out to be a complete and utter bath bun. That bit where it's thrown away and smashed on the floor really got to me. That I got angry. And yeah, the finding of the humans under there and the fact that they were trying to kill off the entire race, that was pretty mind-blowing, that 3 human beings would do that. But there again, I mean, I suppose they could be Donald Trump's ancestors. Yeah, the writing, I think, was very good. I think the writing was very good. But I mean, you've got to remember that the storyline before this was the Aztecs. And of course, it was followed by the Reign of Terror. So you had 2 historical ones and then a science fiction one in the middle, which is how they used to do it then. I like it. I think it was really well done. I like the sets. They had something to them. And oddly enough, they didn't spend that much time in the TARDIS. They couldn't, because the Sensorites had stolen the lock of the TARDIS, so they were unable to unlock the TARDIS and get back in it. And yes, eventually they were given it back by the head of the Sensorites, the first Sensorite, Ken Tullison. Yeah, brilliant. I think he did a really good job of it. And as I say, the city administrator, the nasty one, oddly enough, was played by somebody who did lots and lots of children's programs from the BBC. His name's Peter Grays, and he did many children's things, children's television shows. Yeah, he was a nasty piece of work and really unpleasant, and he was brilliantly played. And the whole plot thing that he got together to make himself the second Sensorite was just amazing, because that is something the Sensorites never did. They never did things like that. So yeah, it was. I think it was very good. I think it was very well directed, and yeah, Jacqueline Hill, William Russell, Caroline Ford, and William Hartnell. What an incredible quartet they were. And of course, William Russell was at Time Lash last weekend and got a standing ovation every time he appeared on stage. Yeah, real gentleman, really nice man. So there you go.
Oh, it's good to see that there was a plot to the story. Let's go to Stephen Price.
My favourite moment when the Sensorites remove the lock from the TARDIS. So
can I just butt in there, Stephen? What made me laugh every time I saw that device? I just thought it was a potato peeler.
All right. And the other part of the guy goes crazy. That reminded me of when he went down nearly on his knees and he was screaming. That's me when I hear a Gary Barlow record. Yeah, why is Susan That's what I want to ask. Why is Susan such a crybaby? So scared she's going up to Barbara all the time. Oh, like that all the time.
Yeah, Susan did that a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, very well. Not a great story, but well acted, and William Hartnell on top form as always. Yeah, I enjoyed it anyway.
Yeah, you enjoyed it so much you fell asleep for half it.
No.
Let's go to Susan and Alex for favourite moments. If they got any.
A lot.
Okay, fire away.
Okay, I did, the reason that you can tell that they did the Sensorites costume the way they did is because the way that they caused people to act, it was that when John was being, mind controlled, he walked with a flat step and he shuffled around, and so they made the costume to resemble that step. It's that disc made him walk flat. They didn't have heels or rugged tread or whatever. They just kind of padded along because it was all in their mind, and so that's why Sensorites were. I mean, it only goes to show that that's why they were done like that. And the other thing that was really interesting was the extravehicular activity. The first time we see a Sensorite, he's hanging on to the outside of the spaceship in zero gravity, in a vacuum, and he's just hanging out there. That's how strange and alien these creatures were, that they could be outside of a spacecraft and be okie dokie about it. I mean, more than just Captain Jack in the Vortex stuck to the side of a TARDIS. They're outside of a spaceship in not space. Anyway, that's pretty freaking awesome. And so then when you find out it's all in their mind and stuff, that's another thing that goes to show. I just think it's like a really super amazing idea, and I love it when Susan may go to Barbara for some comfort, but she's got no, other than Barbara, she's got no female influence in her life at all. So you're gonna try and find some of that with the people that you're around, and so that's why she and Carol got along too. Carol, the character of the scientist slash navigator on the spacecraft, Susan really gravitated towards her too, and it was really incredible, like that, the long-term romance. I mean, I totally shipped those two in the ship, like the old guy and his intended bride, who's just been sitting there, half dead, half asleep for 40 years. I mean, wow, that's another one of those, the girl who waited kind of things. It's just like so many of these things, they show up later on in the show at some other point. But it's like, it's cool that this is where it all started. The discussion of Gallifrey, the discussion of patience and dedication towards a relationship, and then the whole presence of mind of telepathic and telekinetic aliens, and I did like their little weapon, even though it did kind of look like a potato peeler, but it would also look like one of those old Mikey phones, you know, with the big circle on it and like that kind of thing. That was also cool, and the fact that it was a weapon and a tool, that was also pretty cool. And so I got a lot of things I like about this year episode. Susan Foreman being number one. And that's why I love to, you know, put on her outfit, because, you know, she's amazing, and I will hear no bad words about her.
Yes, you will.
About Susan Foreman, because she's perfect.
And this episode refers this episode actually refers to the Doctor only having one heart.
Yeah.
All right, well, that's true.
Did you notice that? Yeah.
All right, well,
Alex. I just wanted to point
as
out.
I said, I mean, again, this is the beginning. This is the 60s and the 70s, and they didn't have supercomputer effects, and they didn't have...
But they had onesies. They had onesies, though,
well,
Alex.
no,
That's
it
important
wasn't
thing.
really a onesie. Unfortunately, it looks...
It's a onesie.
It looks like a onesie.
Hang on, Alan, did you not listen to, you know, my completely logical explanation of how they came up with this?
Yeah, but they still went and
costume?
bought them at a shop, and it was a onesie shop.
Some otherwise. Well, again, you know,
Went to
remember too
Primark
that
back in the day.
this was also the era where they didn't have the internet and 10,000, you know, stories that are sort of the competition. And Doctor Who was very good, not only at the characters in a way, but also coming to filming the Cybermen and the Daleks. I mean, technically that should have been impossible anyway, because there was no computers or anything like that to help. So when it comes, even TV show books that I've seen from the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, they've even said, you know, we admit the special effects are bad, but Doctor Who had the guts to try to do it. They didn't always succeed, but they tried, and that's better than not trying at all.
Yeah.
Now, as I said, yeah, it does get very talky. It does get a little too, unfortunately, mustache twirly, but they didn't have, you know, the days of computer editing and doing everything at a super pace, and that wasn't the point back then anyway. So, you know, again, it laid the groundwork. It laid the foundation. And, you know, you can see stories before this and after this that are very good, and they do change the companions. So if you don't like Susan, Ian, and Barbara, they do change the companions. And again, you can also watch the history of the show, and they do get faster and they do get better in terms of it's not, you know, 12 parts all the time or 6 parts all the time. But again, you know, we didn't have Star Wars and stuff like that where it made everything too fast, you know.
But most of the other stories were 4 parts.
Yeah, that too. But I'm just saying that, again, you know, I'll give them also credit for trying to come up with definite characters, but they also tried to stretch them out. Like there was stories where Barbara did want to change history, and even the Doctor corrected her and said no. There was the story where they all sort of went a little crazy inside the TARDIS.
Yeah.
Which, yeah, that had hammy moments, but it also was scary, and it also, you know, made it uncomfortable, and that's what science fiction is supposed to do as well. One story's supposed to be plot related, another one is emotion related, and they go the gamut. And Doctor Who was doing that on a regular basis before a lot of shows were doing it. Well, I'm not going to go that far, but but as I said, you know, even they had the guts to do Dalek stories and Cyberman stories, and they probably shouldn't have, because I don't know how much budget that took up. But they did have the guts, and they did have the guts to put in other villains like the Celestial Toymaker, which if they had had the budget, that would have been great, and it was a great actor. So, yeah, it has visual shortcomings, but the ideas and the plot and the dialogue are usually pretty good. And remember, this is in the first 3 years of the show. So, I mean, think about that. You know, how many science fiction shows without having $1 billion can try so much?
Still doesn't excuse the writing, though, does it? Let's go to Lee. And by the way, Barbara's my favourite of the four. Barbara's my favourite.
Let's have a look. Yeah, what can I say? Susan pointed out at the cliffhanger of episode 1 where the Sensorite outside the ship. Beginning of episode 2, it was a completely different Sensorite. And you could tell it was a totally different, but we won't go. What I liked about this, I don't know, was there a break last story when this one started? Because at the beginning of episode 1 of this, we had a recap that were talking about the adventures it had every story up until now. I just wondered if there was a break in transmission for a few weeks. I don't know, but and we found out as well the Doctor had adventures before of Ian and Barbara, Henry VIII, which is quite cool. Yeah, I just like the TARDIS team. That TARDIS team working together. That's my favourite thing about this story. When they're together, the Doctor's getting I nearly said Chatterton. Chesterton's name wrong, and there's Susan and Barbara, good buddies together. They help each other out. I like that. It's a good solid team. Yeah, I did like Peter Glaze as the chief administrator, city administrator. Let's all crack a jack. But yeah, that's all I can say really. For me, it does drag out of the first season of Doctor Who. This is my least favourite story. The others, for me personally, are way above it. But this one is my least favourite. But it has got some good points. It's the TARDIS team that are the good points in this one for me. That's all I can really say. The acting on the space station at the beginning by the captain was a bit iffy. But I don't know. He wasn't in it for long. So over to you, Alid.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think this is definitely one of the weaker episodes of this season, and I think it's one of the weaker William Hartnell ones. There's not a lot that happens in it. The best bits are with the four main characters because they're an amazing TARDIS team. But the Sensorites, they don't really have any character. They don't really do much but talk to the camera and wave around a potato peeler and put one of these, what do they call them, doctor things where he listens to your heart and they put it to their head. So yeah. But having said that, this does have one of the most famous lines in Doctor Who, which is towards the beginning, when they're all in the TARDIS together. And he says it's
curiosity in a junkyard.
Yep, that line. Yep, that's that's always played. They use that all the time, don't they? When they do like these trailers of Doctor Who over the last 55 years, they always add that line in. So for that, yes, big thumbs up.
Okay, so my thoughts on the Sensorite is probably gonna have to be one of the best stories within within Hartnell's era. I really enjoyed this story. This is like I said, this is a classic. I like it so I love it so much that I mostly watch it like every so like often and every few days per worth of watching Classic Who. I mean, it's so simple, and the basic premise and story within the story is so basic and a little bit cheesy, but that's for what Doctor Who was back then. But I really love and enjoy this story. It's one of the best. It's Hartnell at its best. And I just absolutely love this story. I would probably most likely give it a 10 out of 10.
Let's go to Stephen Price for final say and score.
I enjoyed it. Like I agree with Lee, it's not one of Hartnell's best. I'll give it 7.5 out of 10.
Well, 7.5, fair enough. Let's go to Beef Dad.
As I say, I remember watching it when it was broadcast. And when it was broadcast, nothing like this had ever been on television before. I loved the story. I liked the design of the Sensorites. And I liked the way that Susan at one point took over from the Doctor and really started building something for herself, character-wise. And as I say, at the time, this was something special. At the time, we didn't have anything else we didn't have anything to compare it with, because this was original. So there was nothing to compare it with, nothing to take the mickey out of it with. It gets a 10.
Oh, 10 for the onesie monsters from Beef Dad. Let's go to Alex and Susan.
Yeah, funniest thing. I will completely agree with Beef Dad. 100%. It's a solid gold 10 out of 10 for me. It's a actually solid molybdenum 10 out of 10, because we're going to find that this planet is rich in molybdenum and they can build all sorts of spaceships with it. Anyway, here's Alex.
Well, and again, I don't mean to take the mickey out of it either. It's just a question of the pacing a little bit. There was a lot of episodes, but again, they did a wonderful job with the Daleks and the Cybermen, the Celestial Toymaker. There's a lot of good with the TARDIS team. It's just that unfortunately, some TV shows and some episodes of TV shows sadly don't necessarily wear well. But again, this is a good series. Always loved it. Hartnell has some wonderful speeches and good moments, and he can get very angry. And when he gets angry, watch out. I mean, you don't want to get him angry. Sorry to borrow from another show, but
he gets pretty angry in this.
But yeah, I mean, again, I don't blame the actors. I think it was the director and the editing. That being said, great TARDIS team. A good theory for a plot here, good sets. So it's not bad. I'm not trying to take the mickey out of it, because I do enjoy that William Hartnell was the Doctor, and there was a contrast, and that's what Doctor Who's supposed to be. You're not supposed to have the same thing for every single Doctor, every single era. And like I said, this was the beginning. So that is not my intent to take a mickey out of it at all. I love Doctor Who. It's quirky. It's different than any other TV show, even the Avengers, which was written by some of the same people. but that's a different show as well. So, you know, it's just that unfortunately also some of the copies that America got were terrible as well. So that didn't help it. Let me give it a 7.5. As I said, it's because of the sets. It's because of the cast. It's just the direction, the editing, and the pacing. Yeah, it definitely could have been tighter. And I think it would have made for a much more absorbing story.
So if I tickled you, you wouldn't give it a 10?
No, I wouldn't give it a 10.
Oh.
Can I just say something? Alex, you're not taking the mickey, you're just giving your opinion. And that's what we're here for, to give opinion. So, you know, don't be pressed into thinking you're taking the mickey, because you're not. You're just giving your honest opinion. And that's why we're here. Let's go to Lee.
Yeah, an opinion. What can I say? It's a 4. That's all I can say. It's my least favourite of the first season, and I score the other stories higher than this. So.
Is that literally it? 4?
It's a 4. I can't say any more than that, and that's just for the TARDIS team. If they were in it, it'd be a 0.
Yeah. Do you know what? I'm actually going to go with the same. I'm going to go with the same. Actually, I'm going to give it a 4. Because actually, when you think about it, there's 4 characters that are good in this, and they're the best elements of the story. Apart from that, it's not really that great. I mean, it's just boring. Apart from them, if you took them out of it, what else have you got? Yeah, you haven't got a lot. There's much better stories around this time, and there's much better Hartnell stories. I mean, people can give it whatever they want. If people want to give it a 10, that's fine. But I do think there are better Hartnell stories, way better Hartnell stories.
Okay. Do I need to really argue this point?
It's the feet as well.
I can't
I'm
just
sorry.
sit still right now for just a second. I would completely disagree. Like, where else on television in 1963 would you have such a cool spacecraft boarded by another spacecraft, space and time craft?
Yeah, but that doesn't mean it's good.
Not just an away team, but an excursion to a planet. I mean, that doesn't make it good. There were so many cool elements that became staples of television that had never been done.
Just because there's nothing else like it at the time doesn't mean it's good. Doesn't mean it's interesting.
It's a crap story.
Yeah. Doesn't make it good just because there's nothing else like it.
And it's an opinion. It's just an opinion.
Yeah.
Everybody's entitled to their own opinion.
You've got to review it as it is. It is not a great story as is. It's just not. I mean, yes, the TARDIS team is phenomenal. You know, I can't knock the TARDIS team at all. I think they're all brilliant. I mean, yeah, there's niggles that you can have about some of them. You know, with Susan, you know, she wasn't always used to great effect in the series. They could have done more with Carol Ann Ford, and they could have expanded Susan's character so much more. I mean, Susan's best episode is sadly her last episode. Really. So, yeah. But like I say, it's a brilliant TARDIS team. It's just a crap story. Simple as that. And it's okay for Doctor Who to have crap stories. Good God, there's been many of them. You know, it's okay. You know, it's not taking the mick. It's just going, look, some stories just aren't that great. You know, Tom Baker. I mean, what's Underworld? I mean, that one's not great, is it? You know, there's several Peter Davison ones. What about Warriors of the Deep? That's not great. You know, every Doctor has them. It's okay not to like a story or an episode. You don't have to like them all. Anyway, we're going to leave it there. I'd like to thank everybody here for joining me. I'd like to thank you for watching. Tell us what you make of this episode of Doctor Who. Do you agree with Beef Dad that it should be a 10? Or do you agree with Lee it should be a 4? Or anywhere in between? Tell us below. Look after yourself. Take care. And we will see you next time.